For today's double review, we have two roguelikes, both about running around and beating up a lot of things, with Rungore and Break the Loop. Rungore left early access as of May, and this is a very violence-fueled deck-building roguelite. You play as a variety of guys. Muscular guys, heavyset guys, knight guys, and other forms of guys who are exploring what appears to be some kind of post-apocalyptic world where lots and lots of things are trying to kill us. And we're going to have to run around and beat them all up. The twist that Rungore brings to the formula is that your character will attack by default without playing any cards. You'll get different cards after each fight and from different events. The different guys that you choose from all have unique gear as well as unique cards that can show up as rewards. Now here's where things get a little bit tricky. Your cards are completely consumable. What that means is if you run out of cards, you're not getting a reshuffle of that deck. You are going to be left to just using your normal attack. So you must weigh when to use cards and when to just let your character punch the enemy and let the enemy punch them. As the game goes on, you'll be fighting more advanced enemies, and the levels themselves will start introducing different modifiers and events that can start messing with you. And it can get a little bit tricky in that respect, with each character having their own kind of style of play. The hungry guy over here gains increased attack speed based on whatever their health is at, and their cards are built around them hurting themselves to gain buffs or regaining health. Different artifacts and equipment will also enable you to build your characters in different ways, and the roguelite nature comes in that every time you win a map, you'll earn coins that you can use to purchase new permanent unlocks, such as additional quality of life features, new gear that can show up, etc, etc. This one can be a little bit weird to wrap your head around, as again, not being able to easily get your cards back can certainly leave you in a bad situation if you're not prepared. Some of the matches they do feel a little bit swingy in that respect. Get a really good set of cards early on, really good gear, and you can just plow through the entire area. Don't get those or run out of cards and you are in a lot of trouble. I really do like the aesthetic of this game, as well as the music kind of pumping you up for it. And there is a lot of variety in terms of the maps and different guy unlocks, and as I said, the game is officially out now. So if you're looking for a very fast-paced and aggressive deck builder to do some rogueliking too, then definitely check this one out. We switch to a different kind of roguelite with Break the Loop. Where our last game was about deck building, this is more about party-based combinations. We are trying to save multiple realities from ever-increasing dangers and horrors. And to do that, we must use a variety of heroes from different time periods, backgrounds, and very unusual fighting styles to do that. Here, this one kind of falls more in line with the kind of like Darkest Dungeon RPG tactics style of combat. You'll create a party of 4 characters from each one of the different classes. You have kind of an assault class, spell class / range, tank, and healing / support. Each character is completely one-off, and even within the different roles, they'll have very huge differences between them. One healer is kind of like the heal over time, poison kind of debuffing character, while another one that I'm showing here in this video, they deal with lifesteal and hurting themselves in order to make their healing better, and then they gain their health back by attacking enemies. As you go through, the kind of time parallel dimension twists of the game come in with how you adjust each run. When you go into a new area, you'll choose the order and placement of all the events. There are also specific nodes that can influence and change things, such as a node that will make whatever you put in that more powerful. If you put an enemy in that, it will turn to an elite fight. If you put a healing station in, it will become a better healer, better shop, war shop, etc., etc. And this is a really interesting way of allowing the player to kind of pick their own poison and better strategize and plan for how a run plays out. You may only get one healing node, and you may want to save that for right before the big bad of the run. Now, the combat itself is a little bit on the finicky side. It uses a timeline system where characters will attack based on their order. Each character has access to 6 different abilities. The first 3 have no real cost other than time energy, which I'll talk about in a second. The other 3 are kind of like unique moves, and they will use the kind of character's special kind of juice known as Echo. And Echo kind of regenerates as you attack the enemy with your normal attacks. And you'll have to try and plan to use your strongest attacks for when battles get harder. The game has a lot of different debuffs, tooltips, special abilities, and so on. It can become a little bit daunting to try and keep track of. In this kind of first world where you're fighting a lot of Lovecraftian enemies, several enemies have kind of like a detonate move that they will use when they run out of health, but there are specific ways of getting around it. After a fight, you are free to attach different kind of reward, I'm not sure there are, like gels, powers, whatever, that can affect the properties of that character. Now, you're not going to be unlocking new moves in this case, or kind of modified versions of them. So what you have at the start of a run is kind of going to be your main focal point. So this is a game that's going to be about proper team compositions and team synergies rather than finding like a super rare artifact over the course of playing. This one can get a little bit on the harder side, as many bosses and elite enemies can have some very whammy abilities that if you're not prepared for, it will just wreck your entire party. And to add even more challenge, there is a time limit for each battle, represented by your kind of time energy at the top of the screen. Different attacks will use different amounts of time energy, and if you ever go below 0, your characters will get a kind of debuff that will need to be cured. Now, the roguelite nature comes in after a run is over, where you'll be able to use kind of like your special persistent currency to unlock benefits. You get access to different categories of perks, which you can choose one for each category, and then you can further enhance that even more, such as allowing your party to get a free heal before the start of a battle, have more higher health, higher damage, and so on and so forth. And it kind of is a little bit weird in this respect. Like, from what I played of this one, it didn't feel like I was like do or die that I needed those perks. But at the same time, the basic game can feel a little bit slow without them. Because you are kind of having to deal with enemies who have quite a lot of health, especially for a roguelite like this, it means battles can take longer to go through, which means more chances for your characters to get hurt. This one is a little bit trickier to recommend. If you like the kind of, again, party-based dynamics of like a Darkest Dungeon, then I think you may want to check this one out. I'm not quite sure if there are enough legs to the gameplay here with Break the Loop. Besides the different planets, you do get progressive difficulty that makes things harder, but you're still limited to whatever 4 heroes you decide to take. So I'm not quite sure there's going to be enough replay value or variance compared to some of the other roguelites and roguelites we've played. But the game is certainly charming enough. I would say it's definitely at least worth a check if you like, again, this kind of party-based dynamic system. But with that, we're going to wrap up this double review here. Both games were played with press keys provided by their developers. If you'd like to play your game for a future stream or video, please reach out. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and see everyone in the next piece. Thanks for watching, and a special thank you to our Patreon supporters. If you enjoyed the video, do the YouTubing stuff, be sure to visit our Discord and Patreon, and if you're interested in more of my thoughts on design, check out my game design books.